no.
And there is a similar situation for CNR in Italy. Maybe you know someone, because there are a lot of institutes that are diffused all around the country. So sometimes you have people that could be in touch, but because they are in different part of the country, they do not know them each other very well. Maybe they know they have some exchanges, but not the typical exchange. Okay, very good. So this is for contextualization. And just one thing. I understand that you are not focused on just one sector in a research sector.
No.
No. So anyhow, do you have the impression that focusing on a certain sector changes the ways in which RR&I is implemented? Do you think something like that, or do you have no idea?
Very, very good question. Yeah. I think, well, it's obvious that there's a strong link to the sustainability community. And if you work in areas like environmental research or like you do bioeconomy, there's very often people are more aware of this already than if you go to, I don't know, electrical engineering or. So I think it's there's more awareness in some areas than others. On the other hand, for example, we have artificial intelligence. It's a big topic in ethics and big data. And also people in these areas are very worried sometimes about what they're doing. Then in Fraunhofer we also have security related stuff. There's a lot of ethical decisions involved, so it's different. Yeah, and then we have the issue of animal research, which is important in medicine-related institutes. So each area has their own topics. Of course, there are some aspects like gender, but even there, even gender and open access, because it turns out in open access that some fields are extremely open to this, like physics. It seems they have always worked with open access. They had they had platforms where they put all their data and shared it. Whereas others are extremely closed. So I couldn't make a systematic assessment, but definitely it's very again and again we notice that the fields have completely different attitudes. Also, some fields are completely male dominated in Fraunhofer. So there's hardly any females. So to talk to them about gender sensitive research is very difficult. On the other hand, for them it's sometimes obvious that something is not right in their perspective. So I think it's often field specific.
Okay, no, my interest for this aspect comes from the fact that our project is focused on RR&I in biosciences. That's the reason why I'm posing you these questions. And of course, and other colleagues, I found in other interviews that someone says that it depends on the novelties also of the issues being discussed within each sector. If you are in a very new sector of research, the issues being dealt with are very new for the people in the sector, and then therefore the ways in which stakeholders interact are very different from sectors in which the interaction are already settled down, for example. For example, let's think to the sector of research in certain sector in engineering that are mature as a research sector, and compared to some aspect of ICT where everything is completely new. Also, the old things are 10 years old. Okay. But this is an issue. For us in biosciences is a very important issue because you know that it's a sector in which novelties are of course are very ethical sensitives for many years, from the impact on human beings to animal research, etc. But things are also new, so there is very little. All the ethical issues, even the industrial issues, are completely new, because the fields of innovation are still to be opened. So you know who are the actors? So you have to contact. Civil society organizations are not aware of what is going on, for example.
That's true. It's probably very different in nanotechnology, for example, where for a long time there has been civil society protests on toxic levels and stuff. So that's true.
So that's the. Okay, so I would like to ask you something about how do you manage to mobilize the actors that are going to implement the activities in the different part of your pilots. For example, of course they have been called to participate because of the European project, but in which way do you mobilize all the actors that are called to change the way in which they carry out research and innovation? Do you have
we involved them, of course, in the visioning, because this is something that in this you probably had the same issue when you write the proposal. In a way, it's requested that you already put the goals, the change you want to make. On the other hand, you are supposed to develop it in a participatory way. So we made a kind of compromise. We put some ideas that we already have, but we said we want to develop everything in a process. Otherwise, you will not get the actors if they cannot contribute if the goals are already fixed. So from the beginning, we had a goal-setting process with the actors. And that, of course, motivates people, because they know, depending on the outcomes of this workshop, the money will be directed in different ways. So they selected the pilots, and so these pilots were implemented. And then, of course, the ones that are partners, internal partners, they are motivated because it's their project, but the problem starts. And the immediate stakeholders are also motivated because they're in the area. But the real challenge starts when it's about transferring this into the culture of the organization, of every single researcher. And then there is a big gap. And this is the same situation in all 5 dimensions now. We have to make this transfer, and that's a real challenge. And it came up in all the workshops until now.
And did you produce a point of view, a statement, an idea on how to continuously involve other actors within the organization, or still you are reasoning on the matter?
No. In every dimension we have developed some idea. For example, in open access, they have really identified this as a problem that the normal researchers on the ground, they don't even know what open access is all about. So there's no point in developing all the technology, and Fraunhofer likes to develop technologies. But they